Let's jump on to the Tipperary against Galway match Saturday at Semple Stadium. I was there for 219 to 20 points. Some brilliant goals in the first half from Tipperary. Jason Ford, first of all, after an assist from Noel McGrath, and then Ford returned the compliment for the Lochmore man for a great second goal as well. Galway did come back into the game. It turned into a bit of a wide fest early enough in the second half, and then ultimately Tipperary pulled away towards the end. I think from Tipperary's point of view, after a couple of draws against Cork and Limerick, this will make them feel pretty good about themselves. 4 points from 6 available.
Definitely, and they threatened the goal, Shane. They hadn't threatened the goal in the previous game at all. And in fairness, probably Noel McGrath been in around that kind of half-forward spot and drifting into those kind of goal-scoring positions. Like, that was just, beautiful little reverse hand pass for Jason Ford's goal. Then he didn't need any second invitation when he was in around the 13 for his own goal as well. There was just a bit more of a threat up front, and they were able to mix, the goals in the first half, and then they didn't really need to press the Galway goal that much in the second half, and they were able to take the points from out the pitch. Ronan Matter's couple of scores were just brilliant. Michael Breen had a huge few minutes when he came on as well. He really put Adrian Toohey on the back foot. Like his catch from that puck out, when he's on form, he's so hard to stop. And I think players like him and Dan McCormack are just so crucial for the volume of work that they can get through, and how much pressure they can put opposition defences under when they're running at them as well. So I do think it was a big win. It was the best we've seen from Tipp yet. And again, there was, while they conceded 2 goals against Cork, they did look secure at the back. And generally, they looked secure at the back again the other day. So we kind of talked about marrying that balance between being really secure and having, an attacking threat. And I think they're getting closer to that now. They weren't all-out attack or anything like that, far from it. But they were able to get a couple of goals, put up a good score, while still keeping tight at the back. Like, Galway didn't threaten their goal too much at all.
Yeah, I nearly knocked one of the good pictures off the wall here. Actually, I'll show you here. I nearly knocked it off the wall, so I said I better get that back up and right. But just before we go back into the individual performances of different players, I was looking at the midway through that second half, so about like maybe the 40th, 41st second, there was a run of 12 shots between then and the 50th minute, give or take, where 10 out of 12 shots went wide or was blocked. It actually became very frustrating to watch, and where you're almost throwing your eyes up to heaven going, for God's sake. But it's very understandable, only 3 weeks back.
So you do better out there yourself?
You can be sure of it. You can be absolutely sure.
It's one thing you can certainly not be sure of.
But let's jump into the Tipperary team and the spine of the team. Paddy Maher played full back again. Seamus Kennedy was centre back. And the thing about Kennedy, and we've heard it when we've been on the sideline for some of the games in recent times, that he's been told to very much hold. And Ronan Maher, who's been left wing back a lot, he's been told, hold, don't get dragged too far up the field. Robert Byrne was tried in the other wing back and he got through the game okay. Similar enough performance to Brian O'Mara the first day. Brian O'Mara got injured, but Robert Byrne did just fine as well. And he's a big guy, he's athletic, so maybe he can settle into a spot. Paddy Cadell ran the game for the first 15-20 minutes as far as I was concerned. I thought he was absolutely brilliant for Tipperary. And then Galway got themselves back into the game and Joe Canning got on a nice bit of ball midfield. Conor Whelan was certainly tied down very, very well by Barry Heffernan. But just what are Tipperary trying to do this year? I think it's very clear that they're not going to be cut open as they had been the last couple of years by Limerick in particular. And I think Seamus Kennedy's athleticism at centre-back, people might say, I'd rather Ronan Maher centre-back because, he's a brilliant striker of the ball, he's great in the air. But the reason that I think they've gone with Seamus Kennedy is, let's say Gearóid Hegarty breaks through from wing forward, or let's say Joseph Cooney for Galway, for example, breaks through. Certain lads, if they're trying to get back on those players, they're losing ground. If Seamus Kennedy is turning and trying to get back, vast majority of players, he's gaining ground on him straight away. Like, he's a serious athlete, very good use of the ball, very good in tight areas. I think probably playing a huge amount of football as well for Clonmel Commercials would be a big part of the composure on the ball, because you just absolutely have to have that in Gaelic football, which you could say the same for Paddy Cadell because he plays a nice bit of it for JK Brackens. I think that's why they've gone with that there, and also so that he can get back and protect Paddy Maher, who's full back.
Sometimes, Shane, you don't need to be on the ball that much at centre back.
No,
because he's filling spaces, and he's not allowing the team to even think of making that run.
Yeah, and I think
you know what I mean.
And I think he will still have a shot from distance now and again, but I think he's less likely to. And I think Tipperary need to be careful with the amount of long shooting that goes on. Ronan Maher can score a few, but you just don't need that many wides. It can be very frustrating. Like, you've seen a couple of the games now where Tipperary are just driving long ball after long ball, but there was less of that here. Do you think Noel McGrath going into the forward line could be the spark for Tipperary again? He was arguably hurler of the year in 2019. He was certainly not too far off the sort of standard set by Seamus Callan during that championship. But Noel McGrath in the forward line, it leads to interplay. He demands the ball when he's out there, and I don't know, he must have 360-degree vision, because the hand pass over the shoulder for Jason Ford. I mean, he obviously did that in the 2010 All-Ireland final to set Lara Corbett free. But he is one of these players who he kind of can see in all directions. He links up brilliantly with Ford, Bubbles, all these different players. So maybe that's the way forward for Tipperary now, just sort of build the attack around Noel McGrath, with the knowledge that Seamus Callan looks set to be available for the Westmeath game next time out.
And try to have legs around him, I think, is the key as well. They put legs in midfield the other day, and Alan Flynn and Paddy Cadell were able to cover huge ground, and Dan McCormack been around there, maybe Michael Breen been around McGrath in a championship match as well. It plays to his strengths. It allows him, he's not going to cover huge amount of ground. He's not going to maybe make up ground on guys, but there's nobody better on the ball. There's nobody better. He just pulls the strings so well, gets his shots away so quickly too. If he has that yard, generally 9 times out of 10, it's going to go over the bar. Or if he doesn't have a shot, he's going to do something. He's going to play a nice little crossfield ball, or he's going to do that hand pass. So I think they'll find a role for him in the attack. As I said before, they're going to have to probably be careful about. They're going to have to mix his brilliance with lots of legs around him. So, I probably don't envisage an attack for championship. Maybe with him, his brother John and Bubbles all been in the one attack for championship. Probably two out of the 3. But Noel does make them click. He just makes things happen.
Do you think that he deserved a red card for the whip across Pádraig Mannion during the second half? As I looked, I was watching. It wasn't too far away from me at the time. I thought, that's loose, and if you connect with a player the wrong way, that is a red card. But it did seem to propel the ball on a little bit more. I actually haven't seen a replay of the incident since. But Joe Canning was very upset, and he was saying to the referee, "Are you for real?" and that you have to protect players. So that was something that I could hear him say from the sideline. Did you think?
The only thing I'll say is, Shane, even if he didn't connect with the ball was in around the vicinity. Wasn't a great stroke. Like just 10 or 15 years ago, there'd be outlads up in the crowd like that going up and taking it's the best thing ever. Whip on it, keep it moving. But I think even with the lack of crowd now, things like that are even exaggerated a bit more, and noise is exaggerated a bit more. But I definitely don't think it was a red, yellow at most.
Yeah, were you impressed with what you saw from Galway in a general sense? Darren Morrissey had a couple of good moments at cornerback. Dahi Burke started out a little bit ropey in his return, but still had some good plays. TJ Brennan wasn't too bad. But Tipperary did score 219, so put up a decent score. Joe Canning midfield, can you see him staying there?
Well, it was interesting. Like he wasn't on the ball in the first quarter at all, and I think the key to Galway turning things around was actually getting him on the ball. The ball seemed to just keep away from him in that first quarter. Can I see him staying there? I probably can. Again, he's going to have probably Johnny Cohn or someone like that who's going to cover huge acres beside him. Interestingly, the hurler on the ditch had an interesting tweet the other day. He named out a potential back 6 for Galway who would all be left-handers. He put Kevin Cooney, who had a couple of decent moments in attack, but was probably quiet enough in the wind-up. You think he plays in the backs or can play in the backs. He had him, I think, TJ Brennan, Garrod, McInerney, Dahi Burke. There's a couple of other left-handers that I can't think of off the head, but whatever about having maybe a left-footed full forward line in football or something like that. I never would have even considered having an all left-handed backline in hurling, but potentially Galway could have it at some stage, which I think was interesting. But the sending off, it was probably similar to last year in the championship game. Jam Mannion came in, was sent off. I didn't see much of it. It's hard to see it in the replay as well. But again, Cottle Barrett was at the centre of absolutely everything for Tipperary, and I think Barrett is one of these players that not that he divides opinion, but if he's on your team, you literally think he's the bee's knees because he does everything you want in a cornerback. He's just so tigerish. He's just legs and arms everywhere. He's getting in on top of defenders, and he's real inspirational force even when he comes out with a ball. There's not many cornerbacks that will get that roar from the crowd and that will, how should we say, influence play that much from back there. But he definitely does. But if he's not on your team, he can almost be, hate figure is way too strong. But you know what I mean? He's a Philly McMahon. He upsets opposition supporters. He almost upsets opposition players. But you'd have him on your team every day of the week if he was, if he's available to you. But I thought he was absolutely brilliant. It's one of the best kind of cornerback displays I've seen in a long, long time, because it is hard to influence play from cornerback as much as he did at the weekend.
Yeah, and I think his pace covers for, like, Paddy Maher's obviously going to go down as a legend of the Tipperary, I think in Tipperary hurling folklore. He's done so much and like missed, was it only a couple of minutes in the last decade in terms of like hurling starts. Like he's been a great player, but I wonder is pace a little bit kind of, he's not quite getting there as quickly as he was before. I don't like hammering it too much, but he was under pressure a couple of times, giving away frees. Kind of, you know yourself, as you get a little bit older, you tend to end up on the floor a little bit more because you're stretching to get there, and it doesn't quite happen as naturally as it would before when you were hip to hip against younger players. So I don't know if he'll necessarily be fullback throughout the entire thing, but there's a nice bit of pace around him, and against a physical type player, there's still a role for him. And I think if he's played fullback 2 games in a row, as he has, he's probably going to be there coming into the championship. So it's one of those things where if Tipperary are going to be 2v2 at the back line a nice bit with maybe Seamus Kennedy sweeping in front, maybe it can work out, because the experience of Paddy Maher, the more he settles back into full back, maybe it can be exactly what Tipperary need eventually. But I think everyone has to plan for, what about when you're against Cork, what about when you're against Limerick, and then obviously the other sides that are going to threaten from the Leinster pot.
Yeah, I thought Paddy was good against Cork now, I have to say, but they found a good matchup for him probably on Patrick Horgan, who probably wasn't going to dust him for pace. Similar-ish the other day, to be honest with you, and he was under a small bit of pressure at times, but I thought he performed reasonably well again. As you say, no more than Noel McGrath up front. I think his deficiencies maybe pace-wise, what he offers in all the other areas, if you can just if you can neutralise that pace thing by putting, those pacier guys around him, which in fairness they do have, and Barrett makes up for a lot of people. Like, Barrett's a fullback's dream to have beside you, because he just offers you so much. So I definitely think Paddy Maher has a lot to offer there. And in fairness, I just think it was a big last few minutes for Tipp, just to get over the line pretty emphatically as they did, and just Galway not being able to maybe back up that win the week before just puts a few question marks back on them as well. All the talk was probably on Galway coming into this game. They're going to maybe be 3 wins from 3. They're the big, threat to Limerick or whatever. But in fairness to Tipp, they laid down a bit of a marker the other day, and it was impressive enough stuff now.
Yeah, and Jarlath Mannion got sent off at a crucial period. I mean, there was 3 minutes left plus injury time, but there was only 2 points between the sides at the time. I'd like a penny for Shane O'Neill's thoughts on his attacking options at the moment. Now, Canning played midfield; he got a point from play. Brian Kincannon really came into the game as
Shane,
it went along.
I think he's fastly becoming Galway's most important player nearly.
Yeah, because when Conor Whelan was largely tied down in the game, and he did have a couple of good moments, and he got a point late on, and I think maybe won a free or had an assist late on. You need somebody else to step up, especially if Canning is out midfield, and maybe that's where they're going to start to use him. Conor Cooney got a couple of points, Kevin Cooney got 1 point, Jason Flynn got 1 point from a free. It wasn't really happening for too many others, so Kincannon is the one stepping up. So who does he know he can rely on when it comes into the championship? He knows he can rely on Kincannon, he knows he can rely on Conor Whelan, and then some of the other, Joseph Cooney's probably done enough over the years to be able to count on him. But some of the other lads, I think over the years, it's kind of one good performance, one bad performance. We might start you one day, we might drop you the next day. So I don't know if Shane O'Neill knows too much more. And I wonder, like Evan Niland came in, and some people just have decided that he's a free taker, but I think he can offer something from play as well. But maybe he's going to start pushing himself into a starting position because of what the other guys tend to produce, the sometimes good, sometimes bad.
Yeah, generally, I'd say if a fair idea. I remember marking Niland in a challenge game. I got six of the best, from play off me.
Did he?
I think they
Only
were all on.
six? Jeez, he must have had an off day.
I think they were all on his left hand side as well. But I think he offers. I think he offers an awful lot because it's been a bit of an interchangeable feast with a lot of those kind of names that you mentioned there. They're in one day, it's almost they come off the bench, make a bit of an impact, start the next day, have no impact, and they come in maybe again and make an impact. So I think Niland's definitely one that he's going to be looking at an awful lot closer. I think it was probably a case of he played the first two games, he played nearly the full game in both of those, and I think it's a funny one. You're trying to give guys lots of game time and get them, how should we say, exposed in these positions and get loads of game time under the belt and get, a style of play and a system of play and get them all knowing each other. But you're also like, I was chatting Liam Cattle about yesterday, you're marrying this balance between getting him all this game time and then not pushing him over the edge. It's such a fine balance to get guys the time that they need and yet not push them over the edge where they pick up a calf or a hamstring knock that leaves them out for 3 or 4 weeks. So I think Shane O'Neill has probably shuffled the deck to that respect, and I think maybe winning the other day wasn't the most important thing. Was probably they took Joe Canning off. I think at the second water break, if they really wanted to win that game, he wouldn't have been taken off. But having played maybe 20 minutes the first day, he got the guts of 55 minutes in the other day, and will probably by the end of the league play a full game. So it's kind of a tricky kind of a balance. Same with Gallan for Limerick. Gallan came on and played 20 minutes against Galway. He played maybe 60, 65 the other day. The extra 10 minutes maybe to finish the game maybe would have pushed him over the edge as well. And all of a sudden it's counterproductive. So it's a tough job for managers.
Up and down the country, people love their clubs. Just ask the big names.
Sorry, it's kind of hard to put that into words, Shane.
Okay, well,
you always give it your all for the club, no matter who you're playing or what you're playing. You just always have to try and push yourself.
This is for the Tyrone people, Nicky.
Whatever grade you're playing at within the county, that you were able to have that opportunity to play.
And the other night, I said, I'm going to watch it.
Well, hopefully you will too, as OurGame launches an online fundraising platform for clubs, helping you raise money for your team through a live interactive show on Zoom. There was a time when a club could sell hundreds of tickets and fill out a big venue, putting on an entertaining show like Dances with the Stars, White Collar Boxing, The Cube, and anything in between. Lots of money in the coffers to ensure your team could operate for the season, and a good show put on for those supporting the cause. Right now we're quite some time away from being able to put big crowds into a venue, yet the costs of running a club remain. So if your club is in need of a financial solution, perhaps we have it for you. We'll do it all for you too. We'll set up the ticketing platform, we'll send you a unique Zoom link for each person who has bought a ticket, all the issues taken out there, help organise a great panel of guests and put out a live interactive show for those at home to get involved. Simply contact us on events@ourgame.ie and we'll set your club up for a highly profitable evening's work. It's a simple recipe for your club to get much needed cash in the door, with the extra option to sell raffle tickets if you've prizes to give away. So contact us now at events@ourgame.ie.